Shalom, I'm Eddie Chumney of Hebraic Heritage Ministries, and we welcome you today to our study on the Hebraic roots of Christianity. We are doing a series on what the rabbis in Judaism teaches about the 10 tribes. And I am here in the city of Jerusalem with Yair Davidiy. Yair is an Orthodox Jew, and he spends his full time doing study and research on the 10 tribes through the organization, ministry, which he founded, which is Brit-Am. And all the information that he has on this subject that he's sharing is at his website, Brit-Am.org. And being an Orthodox Jew, Yair doesn't believe that Yeshua is the Messiah. He doesn't believe in the New Testament. He's just here to help us to understand the subject of the 10 tribes from rabbinic and a Jewish point of view. And as we've covered on the various programs, Yair is just not sharing his personal opinion. The research that he has done is backed up not only by the Bible, but with rabbinical sources, and as well as historical, linguistic, and other proofs on the subject matter. So we are continuing in looking at the biblical characteristics of the 10 tribes. And in the last couple programs, we've gone over the following characteristics: that they would possess the gates of their enemies, they would be located in the isles of the sea, they would be in the north, in the west, they would be in the land of Sinim, which Yair explained that the rabbis understand this is associated with the Southland, with Australia. They would be militarily powerful, they would be very numerous, they would be economically prosperous, they would be associated with monarchies. And as we was ending our last program, we were talking about the connection of Manasseh and Ephraim, and Yair went into detail regarding the word Manasseh in Hebrew and the rabbinical commentaries regarding the name, and from that connection and associations and characteristics of the word Manasseh in Hebrew, we connect it to representative democracy and other things, and we ended in last program where Yair was sharing that one of the sons of Manasseh is Maher, and this is connected with the name America. And first of all, Yair, I want to welcome you back to the program. Glad that you're here again with us to explain these things from a Jewish point of view. And so how about if we continue where we left off last week on the program, where we were looking at in one of the characteristics that was given to the descendants of Abraham, which of course would include all 12 tribes, but we're focusing on particularly the 10 tribes, that there would be kings that would come from him. And you mentioned that this is associated with monarchies, and how Western people particularly have countries that set up according to monarchies. And then we started talking about Manasseh and Ephraim. And so let's continue where you talked about and explain how Maher, a son of Manasseh, is going to be connected with America. And then let's get into Ephraim, how that's associated with being a people of aristocrats. And then we'll talk about the Union Jack, or Yaakov, and how that's connected with Britain and connected with the United States in the form of Yankee. Once again, that's a lot of information, but we'll just begin the process and discuss these issues. So first start talking about Maher and explain more, because we got cut off on the last program, regarding how that name can be connected to the name America and the founding of America.
Okay, so we saw previously how the lost tribes, wherever they are, lost tribes would have to be militarily powerful, have to have influence all over the world, possess strategic gates of their enemies, be extremely wealthy, possess a good portion of the earth's of the wealth of the earth and the raw resources of the earth also be extremely numerous. We also mentioned that Joseph had two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, were separate tribes in their own right, and how indications are that Manasseh would become the dominant element in North America, especially in the USA. The firstborn son of Manasseh was called Machir. Machir in Latin, as transliterated into Latin, as we have documentary evidence, it was often rendered as Amerigo. Actually, Machir was also given the nickname Hamachiri. It's found in the Bible, literally meaning Hamachirites, the descendants of Machir in the plural. It could also be applied to a singular person. One person who was known as Hebrew name was Machir is nicknamed Hamachiri, the person from Machir. And this in Latin became Americo. And it also is because there was a Jewish hero in the southern France who also had this name, and the name also spread to it was recognized by a saint for some reason or other by the Catholic Church. So his name was spread to the Gentile population. There was a Gentile from northern Italy called Americo Vespucci, who was a navigator, and he gave his name to America. America is named after him. When you say the word America in common speech, you're not referring to the North and South America, you're referring especially to the USA. America is another name, a well-known name, connotation for the USA, America. And America indirectly means Mechir, the firstborn son of Manasseh. So therefore, America it could be considered to be derived from the word Mechir, or Hamachiri, sons of Mechir, firstborn son of Manasseh. Mechir in Hebrew has several meanings. One of the meanings is price, or in Hebrew, in biblical Hebrew, can mean capitalism, the principle of capitalism. And America is the foremost capitalist country in the world, and the American Constitution is based on the principle of capitalism.
All right, so
there we have the name, and we also mentioned in the Bible, also confirmed by the Talmud, that name is reflected in the essence of a people. Getting back to Ephraim. Ephraim was the other son of Manasseh.
Well, let's. I asked you a question in the last program. Since you are characteristically associating Manasseh and the meaning of the word and the background, everything that you've been explaining, to the United States of America, I asked you in the last program, would you then be saying that every single person who lives in the United States of America be of the tribe of Manasseh? And you said...
No, definitely not.
No, so we're just talking about in the characteristics of association to Manasseh. The United States as a country has a fulfillment of those characteristics. So therefore, we would see perhaps a lot of the tribe of Joseph, a lot of the Israelite peoples who would be living in America. And by living in America, America is primarily a Christian nation. So therefore, a lot of those of Joseph would be, who are practicing Christianity, would be living in the United States. But we're not saying that every American is of the tribe of Manasseh. Is that correct?
No, we're not saying that whatsoever. We do believe, according to our findings of our research, that a good portion, or a large significant proportion of the population of the USA are Israelites, are of Israelite descent. Amongst those Israelites, we will find many who are from the tribe of Manasseh. Not only that, we will find that those who are descended from Manasseh, maybe because they contributed to the ruling elements, or the people who ideologically were very important in the formation of the American character, somehow or other these people came to give an expression or to determine the national character of the USA. And that is why, in that sense, the USA may be considered to belong to Manasseh. Okay,
so characteristically, you link Ephraim with Britain and those countries that are associated with Britain under British control. And so, how do you make the connection of Ephraim being connected with the country of Britain, while at the same time you're not saying that everyone who lives in Britain is physically descended of the tribe of Ephraim, are you?
So, no. In general, the British Isles received settlers from all over. A good portion of them, of the settlers, were of Israelite descent, were Israelite tribes. And we can, of these different groups, of the hundreds of different tribes, or small tribes, or groups that come from all over the place in ancient times, settled in Brit-Am, a lot of them have names or other characteristics that relate them to the tribes of Joseph, to different clans of Joseph, of Ephraim and Manasseh.
Could you give us some examples of that?
We have Galadon from Gilead. We have Perez from Manasseh. We have Aaron in Ireland. Aaron was from Ephraim in Ulster. We have.
And who are these people that you're referring to, or are you referring to regions, or these names that you're talking about? Who are they? What are they?
So you sprung this on me. No, they're all the different. These Aaron, for instance, was another name. Where it was the name of the people in Northern Ireland.
These were the name of the peoples in Northern Ireland. Okay, go ahead.
Northern Ireland, and that was one of their names. Okay, they also have the Yair in Ireland from Manasseh.
These are the names of the peoples.
The different peoples, they have a different name. For instance, they have hundreds of different names. Certain names, certain groups were dominant. They are considered to have ethnic significance, that everyone in that area somehow was related to these peoples. Many of these names are similar to those of Israelite names, or similar to Israelite names, that can be understood as being derived from Israelite names. These Israelite names are found in the Bible. They are tribal names, names of Israelite tribes, or names of clans within the tribes, which the Bible gives us, Numbers and Genesis and the books of Chronicles and elsewhere. And by associating these names and showing that these names pertain to different tribes, we can show what tribes were dominant in the area.
So that's the key. You're talking about tribes that were dominant in the area.
Yeah.
Tribes that are dominant in the area. You're describing the characteristics of the lands where tribes of Israel that were dominant in the area, the connection between. That's what you're trying to explain. You're not trying to say that every single person that lives in England is of the tribe of Ephraim.
No.
Okay, so continue on.
The same thing as we said for America. We're not saying that they're necessarily all Israelites. That Israelites are a significant portion of the population.
And so would there be
descendants of Israelites, not knowing who their ancestors were. Or, for instance, we know the ancient inhabitants of Britain did not call themselves Celts. Historical books refer to them as Celts. They did not call themselves Celts. The name they used was Iberi. That is the name they used for themselves. Iberi is another way of saying Hebrew. They called themselves Hebrews.
Okay, so are there those from the tribe of...
we get the name Iberian for Ireland. We still find it there.
Okay, so are there people that would be connected with Manasseh and Ephraim, who would be descendants of the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh? Would they be living in other countries besides the United States and Britain?
Yes, also in Canada, also throughout Western Europe, actually throughout many areas of the world. The Israelites were scattered all over the place.
So even
they congregated in specific areas. The Bible itself says, also a rabbinical commentator said, that the lost tribes would be together in one area. They more or less managed to stay together in coherent groups in specific areas, and they moved around as their bodies, and they were often allowed to move together with other peoples who also we can historically also descend from Israelites.
So those who are descended from Ephraim and Manasseh, they're scattered throughout the world, but as a group, the larger part of the group stayed together, and they settled in, or they migrated from place to place and settled in particular areas, and so therefore we have we're talking about now England that is going to be associated characteristically with Ephraim. That's what we're saying.
Exactly,
right?
yes.
So continue on how Ephraim is associated with aristocrats, how that's associated with England, and how, let's say, the Union Jack is associated with England.
But we are saying that there would be a significant number of people, physical descendants of Ephraim, amongst the Israelite inhabitants of the British Isles. Okay, we're not entirely
significant.
We're not entirely divorcing ourselves from the physical association.
Right. Significant, but not exclusive.
Exactly.
Okay,
yes.
continue on. So, how's a
So Ephraim in Hebrew, the word Ephraim in Hebrew is also pronounced Ephrati, someone who belongs to the tribe of Ephraim. It's referred to as Ephrati. It's found several times in the Bible. Ephrat in Hebrew means an aristocrat, and the commentators
in the Hebrew language.
In the Hebrew language is another name for aristocrat.
Okay, so we make the association just by the Hebrew language itself.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Ephrat is another name for aristocrat.
Okay, continue on.
And this was one of the attributes of Ephraim, aristocracy, and as distinct from Manasseh, his brother. And so the very name Ephraim has connotations of aristocracy.
Okay.
And we find that the British character is that of aristocracy. As a person to person, the British are very egalitarian. They don't like lords, they don't like this and that, but they, somehow or other, they still have the House of Lords. It's still worthwhile being born to the family of a Lord's family or one of the aristocratic families, but not because materially they get extra benefits. The system has worked in their favour, but the British seem to want it that way. It expresses some aspect of the British character. And even the lower classes feel themselves to be aristocratic compared to other peoples, and to just be not exactly in the right station they should have been. It's a fundamental element. This has been noted. This is not something that I am saying. We have references that other people, foreigners, describing the British character, have remarked on this phenomenon. Without any connection whatsoever, the meaning of Ephraim, well, people who wouldn't know what I was talking about, wouldn't know what we were referring to, never looked at the Bible in their lives. But concerning the British, they have remarked the fundamental aspect of the British character, the British national character of most British people is a feel of aristocracy, and the principle of aristocracy. And this is the only country in the world we have a House of Lords. Upper House is the House of Lords, where Lords have a special privilege to veto, or almost veto, most legislation, and they have certain rights and privileges. And this is probably the only country in the world where this principle, aristocratic principle, still exists and is thriving. Doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon.
So how
we're getting back to the Union Jack. The Union Jack is the flag of Britain. Jack is a short for Jacob. Literally speaking, Union Jack means the combination of the Union Brit, the covenant of Jacob. And we have the expression the tribes of Jacob, referring to the 10 tribes of Israel. So the covenant of Jacob.
The tribes of Jacob, was that refer to all 12 tribes rather than just the 10 tribes?
It can and it can. It depends how it depends on the context of the expression. But since sometimes we have Israel, sometimes Israel refers to all the tribes of Israel. Sometimes we have Israel juxtaposed in Judah.
Yes.
In which case Israel is referring to the 10 tribes, Judah is referring to the Jews. So the same way we have, sometimes we have Jacob and Israel juxtaposed, and sometimes it is referring to different aspects of the Israelite nation. In other cases it is referring to both Judah and the 10 tribes of Israel. So we have to look at it, see what the commentators say, and take care of each case as we find it and analyse it.
Okay.
But this is a known principle.
Okay, so Union Jack.
We also in Jewish writings and so on, mystical writings, and we have Jacob was especially connected with Joseph and with Ephraim. Okay, we find this principle.
Okay.
So with the Union Jack, from representing the British, we also have a Jock, a nickname for a Scotsman, which also is derived from Jack. And we have, even though the French is called Jacques, but it's not so pertinent. But we also, incidentally, have the name Yankee. In America, the word Yankee, so there's all different explanations. If you look it up in Wikipedia or on the web, you'll find all types of different explanations as to where this word Yankee came from. Maybe the Yaqui Indians, maybe from this, maybe from the Dutch pronunciation of Englishman. No one really knows, but we do know that in Hebrew, Yank is short for Yaakov, for Jacob. In Yiddish, in Ashkenazic Yiddish, Hebrew, Yank means Jack. In other words, it means Jacob. And Yank, even though within America itself, Yankee refers to the Northern Americans. Outside of America, Yankee is a nickname for anyone from the USA. And so the USA is nicknamed. People from the USA are nicknamed after Jacob, the forefather of the Israelite nations.
All right, so how else do you get thematically or characteristically have England and its associated countries being connected with Ephraim? How else? What are other things besides what we've talked about? Is the connection of England and the associated countries connected with Ephraim? Because that's the connection, the characteristic connection you make, right, of Ephraim to England.
So historically we have groups, that Iran and so on, who descend from Ephraim, Shutalach and others who descend from Ephraim, who we can show similar to names of tribal groups that settled within Britain. Also with a unicorn, which the unicorn was a symbol of Manasseh.
Okay.
A bull was a symbol of Jacob. Oh, sorry, it was a symbol of Joseph.
In the Bible.
In the Bible. No, maybe necessarily. No, in the Bible, the bull is a symbol of Joseph.
Bull is a symbol of Joseph.
Joseph is the father of Ephraim and Manasseh. But in rabbinical exegesis, in the Midrash and so on, bull is specifically associated with Ephraim.
Okay.
So we have John Bull. John Bull is a nickname for an internationally known nickname for an Englishman. John Bull. Bull means is a bull, a symbol of Joseph. We also have the very name English. Word England comes from Aigle land, or Angle land. And the Anglo-Saxons and the Jutes conquered England, the area of Britain, from the so-called Celtic peoples, and they settled there. Even the Saxons who were together with the Angles, they referred to themselves as Angles. So they identified with Angles, so it was known as Angle land. Angle can also be pronounced as Aigle on the continent, in Germany and also in Holland and so on. So it's another way of pronouncing Aigle, is another way of pronouncing Angle. They're one and the same names. Also in Hebrew you have the word Aigle, which means a bull calf. An Aigle in Hebrew, in biblical Hebrew, could be pronounced as Angle. So the words Angle and Aigle are in effect the same, one and the same words. So Britain, England, is called Angle land. It's called the land of the bull calf. In the Jeremiah chapter 3, also as confirmed by Rashi, Aigle is a nickname for Ephraim. So we find the very name England to be named after a nickname for Ephraim.
Okay, so now we are making a connection of England being associated with Ephraim. Of course, Ephraim is one of the sons of Joseph, but Ephraim is also a term that refers to the 10 tribes in general. And in the book of Obadiah, in chapter 1 and verse 20, where it talks about the captivity, the hosts of the children of Israel shall possess that of the Canaanites, it speaks of Zephyrath, which in previous shows we've talked that is a direct reference to France, because that's the meaning of the word France in the Hebrew language. But the commentator says that this can apply to England as well. But what was prophesied of the tribes of Israel, which would include the 10 tribes, is that they would be located in the Isles of the Sea. And, of course, we refer to England as the British Isles. So, one thing in and of and by itself doesn't necessarily make a proof, but when you take of all the different things and weigh it and bring it all together, then it becomes a weighted evidence of itself. And so that's why what we're doing is we're giving a number of these associations, and we don't have time to do a complete list. We're just giving a little bit of a preview of those associations. So behind you, you have a couple books that you wrote, some Joseph books. We want to make mention of that here. So this book that you wrote is Joseph, the Israelite Destiny of America. And then this is a more recent book. Here you have Uncle Sam here and the unicorn. And this book is Rule to Rule, the Task of Joseph. So you mentioned the connection of the unicorn, and there's another book that you wrote called Lost Israelite Identity. And let me grab that book and show that. lost Israelite identity, and this is the unicorn as well. And subtitled The Hebrew Ancestry of Celtic Races. And so this is another book, Ephraim, the Gentile Children of Israel. And we're going to be talking about this in greater detail in ensuing programs. But there's another book that you wrote, The Tribes, the Israelite Origins of Western Peoples. And so we'll just spend maybe a program or two just talking about this book. But this is just a sampling of the books that you've written on this topic and this subject, from the research, using the Bible, using rabbinical sources, history, linguistics, and other things. So this is going to conclude our program.